Hello and welcome, Threadheads. My name is Ashley, and before I begin, I would love to know how you're doing today. Personally, I feel amazing, but that's mostly because you're here. For this week, we are kicking off with round 2 of office gossip. This time around, we have some colleagues who think they're management, some new colleagues who happen to be a ghost of OP's past, and an unfortunate person who happened to call his partner by his co-worker's name during intimacy. And as the usual unsolicited advice givers, I am bringing this forward for us to decide, do we think co-workers need to be fired? Do we think people need to be divorced? Or do we think people need to be arrested? Yeah, it's going to get to a point where you might think we need to call the police. As usual, if you enjoyed today's video, why don't you go ahead and click that like button? If you would like to see more videos like this, you can always subscribe, which would help the channel grow and mean the world to me. And you can also get notified of when I post, which is every Monday, by hitting that notification bell icon down below. But before we begin the video, I do want to say thank you for being here, as always. It means the world to me that you are here, but it also means you make bad choices and that you're kinda nosy. I'm not judging you because I'm just as nosy as you are. Dare I say even more? I'm the one making the video. Without further ado, let's jump into some stories. Ashley read it, and now, so will you. We have our first post by QWERTY1399 under the relationship subreddit, and he says, I called my wife by my co-worker's name during sex. I'm a male 42 and wife is female 35. We've been married for 5 years with a blended family of 3 kids total. I realize I'm hosed, trust me. I just don't know what to do at all to recover from this. The co-worker is a woman that works for me. She's contract and has been there for about 3 months. She's attractive, I'll admit, but I don't have feelings for her or anything like that. She's just another co-worker, but I have been training her, so we've had to work closely together lately. I honestly have no idea why I said her name. My wife and I were having sex and I was doing the normal, letting my mind wander so I can go a little longer. And my mind drifted to work, then a project, then her, and it just happened.
Your husbands are dead men.
My wife was inconsolable. I talked to her at length, and she does believe me now when I tell her I have not cheated with this woman. I offered up everything. Access to my phone, text, logs, email, everything. And she knows that I'm not missing any time that cannot be accounted for. But I can't convince her that I am not sexually interested in this woman. The sticky part is this. Her contract is up and we have the option to hire her. She's a good worker and there is no question that I want to hire her. It's not fair to her to let her go through no fault of her own. But my wife is convinced if we continue working so closely together, something will happen. And she is not a jealous person, so this isn't just a passing thing that she thinks about every woman. I mean, I called her by this woman's name for Christ's sake. I can see why she's rattled. We have a wonderful marriage, rarely fight, have sex like rabbit, etc. So I don't want to do anything to mess this up. So what now? My wife hasn't made any demands, but this just happened 2 nights ago, so she's still digesting it. I can't punish this woman for my mistake, but if my wife lays down an ultimatum, should I tell her to deal with it in the most understanding way possible, or start searching for a new job? That is so awkward. Okay, I don't think he's hosed forever. I think he's just in like a penalty box, to be honest. I think if he goes into over-apologizing mode or defensive mode, that might be when the wife will start raising red flags in her head. I think she just needs a moment to process what's happened. But on the other hand, it wouldn't be fair to let go of this woman because of something that she has no fault in. I think it's good to acknowledge the hurts that his wife is going through. I think it's just good to be transparent with his wife. Maybe let her know that this new coworker is a really good asset for the company and you will try to limit your interaction with her to strictly professional. So I would say, for me, don't try to downplay it as, oh, I was just being stupid or I just called her name randomly. But at the same time, don't go too much into trying to explain it to the point where you start looking panicky. I think just be honest and open about what your thought process was. I would say don't downplay it. In the comments, Infernal Wedgie says, I've blurted some pretty weird things during sex, so I sympathize. You might just need a session or two with your wife in marriage counseling, so you can have a safe place to explain yourself with a mediator to help you through awkward patches. A star named Alice says, if this happened to me, I would expect my husband to apologize profusely and explain in full detail why he said another woman's name during sex. Did you explain to her like you did in your post? It's not something she will forget, but with the right explanation, I think it can calm her nerves. It sounds like it was an honest mistake. I think your next step should be to make your wife feel special. Take her out to a nice dinner, or maybe even a weekend away together if you can afford it. And OP responds, oh yes, everything has been explained. She's not going nuts about it. She's just being quiet right now and digesting it, which is her way of handling upsetting things. We are still talking about it, and she does believe that I didn't cheat, but thinks I'm downplaying my attraction to the coworker. And then Dinosaur Train says, hire the girl. She doesn't deserve not getting the job. As mad as it's going to make everyone hear, I'm going to put it out there that you may need to look for another job. This isn't about right and wrong. This is about your marital happiness. The right thing would be for everyone to forget about it, and you keep your job and so on. But right isn't going to happen. Look at it objectively. So long as you work with her, your wife will be concerned and unhappy. Those are terrible feelings for her to have to suffer with. Those will undermine your marriage. So forget right and wrong. Explain to your wife the truth again, but tell her that you care more about her happiness and your marriage than being right. Tell her you are ready to look for another job and see how she feels. If she wants that, then you should leave. And OP responds, yep, this is exactly what I'm thinking. It might not be exactly rational, but I also can't go to work every day with my wife growing increasingly insecure about this woman. Then OP comes in with an update, and they say, thanks for all the comments. It really gave me a lot more points of view to take in. I wrote my wife a long email yesterday explaining in detail that it was just a slip of the tongue and that was it. Nothing deeper, nothing devious, just nothing. I also let her know that I couldn't not hire the woman, but if this is going to be something that would eat away at the foundation of our relationship, then we could talk about an alternative to my working with her and what that would or could entail last night at home. Lots of professions of my love and reminders that I have no desire or inclination to ever F up what we have. About an hour later, she responded and said she had digested it all, thought of all possible scenarios, and while she was very rattled and highly pissed once the shock wore off, she knows that I'm telling the truth. She believes it was a slip of the tongue, albeit a huge one, and she would never ask me to not hire the woman when she is completely ignorant that any of this is going on nor played any part in it. She said she would like to meet her just to put the matter to rest in her head. So I asked her to come meet me for lunch tomorrow. FYI, this isn't new behavior at all. She knows all of my team and goes to lunch with us as a group a couple times a year. And we also socialize with a couple of them outside of work at times. Last night, when we got home, she was back to normal and actually joked about it at one point. She went to hand me my plate at dinner and I said, thanks, hun. And she said, are we going to start using pet names instead of our real ones? I like the forethought. She laughed and I shook my head. TLDR, my wife is awesome. Edit, I will say that all the people that posted things like, tell your wife to chill out and get over it, made me laugh and at the same time pity your future wives. Calling your wife by your aunt's name at the grocery store would call for that. But calling your wife by another woman's name when you are balls deep
2,000 years later.
But calling your wife by another woman's name when you are balls deep and about to orgasm, give that crap the gravity it deserves. Oh my goodness, I haven't laughed so hard at someone's edit in a long time. And also, telling her to get over it would have made everything worse. If you're thinking initially when you mess up is to tell your partner to get over it, I feel bad. I feel bad for your future partner.
I said what I said, and I'm not changing on it, okay?
Anyway, if you were his wife, how would you react? What would be your thought process? And what would be your solution to fixing whatever you feel at the time? Do let me know in the comments. And in the meantime, I'm going to take a sip from my tea, and then we'll move to the next story. Welcome back, everybody. Also, when you listen to or watch the videos, do you also have a cup of tea, or are you doing something else like driving or working and I'm in the background? I'm a little curious to know what you're up to. Anyway, we are going over to the Am I the A-hole subreddit with a post by Background Reason 919, and they ask, am I the a-hole for telling my new work colleague that she has no rights to control our office habit? I, 35 male, have been working in this office for 3 years. We recently hired a new girl, 25 female, and she sits diagonally in front of me so I can see her at my desk and vice versa. We are around 1 meter apart. She has been working for 3 weeks and has been trying to control our office habits based on her liking. Here are the issues that has been happening and what's triggered me to do what I did. 1. I have an unhealthy eating habit and snacking a lot during work. She mentioned twice, jokingly, how I tempted her for eating cakes and how can I stay skinny even though I eat like pigs. I offered her some and she refused, saying she's trying to lose weight. Fine, I stopped snacking on my desk, but my other colleagues and I still have lunch at desk when we are quite busy. Then by the end of first week, she reported to HR and said people should not have lunch or eat at desk because it can be unhygienic and the crumbs might fall into keyboard, etc. and attract bugs. She also mentioned how she was annoyed by me eating ice cream, cakes, bread, etc. during work hours, and it disturbed her because she's trying hard to lose weight. How is that his problem? Anyway, so HR sent us all emails and now everyone in the office, everyone, can no longer eat anything on our desk. 2. On her second day, she complained that the girl sitting next to her, Jane, was using a very strong perfume and the scent nauseated her. Jane did wear a strong perfume indeed, but it wasn't that horrible. All of us could tolerate Jane, and suddenly, because this new girl couldn't tolerate her, Jane was the one that had to change. 3. Between our team, 6 of us collect $10 weekly to buy lottery. One of the guy on our team is Muslim, and he doesn't gamble, so he never participated, but yet he never discouraged or criticized us. We offered this girl to join us, and she criticized us about how gambling is bad and says it is very unprofessional to be collecting money to gamble in office environment. She actually brought this into HR, arguing the harm and risk, and if we happened to win millions of dollars and did a massive exodus, it would be harmful for the company. Luckily, HR didn't do anything. 4. The Muslim guy prays twice a week in our stationery room. Unfortunately, we don't have a praying room in the office. He's got his praying mat and other stuff in our stationery room, and it has been there since I started working. She suggested him to move it somewhere as he shouldn't put his personal belongings in a common area. She told the other girl in our team that the old mat wasn't pleasant to look at. Okay, what happened today? Our desk's layout is shaped like L, and my desk is next to the glass window. In our team, there are 7 people excluding her, and all of us are sun haters. We always pull down the shade, and especially the guys sitting on the other corner. They said if the window is open, the sun would glare into our computer screen in the afternoon, making them unable to see their screen very well. This girl has been complaining how our corner is too dark and gives bad vibes, and she needs to have the shades opened up. She mentioned how the sun will make people happier and increase productivity. I couldn't stand her anymore, so I stood up from my desk and said, I didn't yell, "Look, her name, you have been here for less than a month, but you keep telling us what to do. We have been changing our habits. We have been changing our habits to accommodate you, but then you keep pushing things. You can't keep telling us what to do. I think the best thing is for you to move to sit where HR people sit because it's always bright there. You are closer with them than to us anyway." She then said I hate women and I'm bullying her, and she's telling our manager and HR about this. Am I the a-hole here? Did I bully her? Is it acceptable for the new hire to tell older colleagues to do these things? I understand that as an adult, you spend a lot of your awake times in the office, so it's natural to want to make that as comfortable a place for you as possible. But then she's gone away from making the place comfortable for her to making it just so uncomfortable for everyone else. The food thing is so crazy to me because if I'm on a diet and people are eating food, common sense tells me to look away or go somewhere else where they aren't eating food. I came across this video on TikTok the other day where a person was showing the difference in their office space. So on one hand, we had the older generation who had this bright lit office space. And when they panned over to the other side of the office, we had the younger generation and their space was very dim, no lights on, and they were still functioning, they were still working, but it's just darker lit. And it's all about preference. As someone who has astigmatism, I personally prefer a darker lit room. And OP has said that the majority of the team members prefer a darker lit room. However, the HR team have a brighter lit corner. She's demanding that the area that does like it darker, lighting the office space, as opposed to her going over to the HR corner, which is already well lit. That is why I think it's going beyond trying to make your workspace comfortable for you to just making demands that are uncomfortable for everyone else. And then to turn it around and say, you know what, the problem isn't me. No, you hate women. I would have been like the Cardi B meme.
I'm glad you brought it up because I've been dying to talk about it for a fucking hot minute. First of all,
you discussing the prayer mat and saying it's old and shouldn't be where it is. You must hate religion. And also, you saying I eat like a pig, that was body shaming, okay? I'm taking that to HR as well. If you want to go low, I will drag us both to hell. I don't like to be petty. Sometimes I feel if you're going to start something, be prepared to have someone else finish it for you. Top comment is by Engineering Love and they say, not the a-hole, but I would talk to the others and collectively notify HR. And Curious Bookworm 21 says, not the a-hole. I would normally never suggest this, but since she went there first, go to HR and report that she called you a pig. That's the only thing there that can get her in trouble, because technically that was bullying. Otherwise, good luck, she sounds horrible. And OP responds to that comment and says, nah, I can't do that. Jane actually started it first. She always says I eat like a pig. Jane and I are actually good friends. I don't want her to get an opportunity to drag Jane down. But thanks though. Ooh. OP has so many updates. My throat is about to hurt when I'm done. Okay, the first update was posted on the same day, a few hours later, and they say, small, not so irrelevant update. I was just talking about this with my colleague who works downstairs in storage room. I don't often go there, but this new girl has to go there every day as part of her job. And he told me a story. In my company, we hired a guy with Down syndrome to do some restocking. Let's call him Bob. Apparently, a couple of days ago, an older woman who worked in the kitchen was wearing a Pikachu apron. When Bob saw the kitchen lady, he yelled, Pikachu, then ran and touched the apron. So he would have accidentally touched her breasts too. According to my colleague, the older lady just laughed and didn't make a fuss. The new girl witnessed this and said Bob had sexually harassed the old lady and that she would report him to HR. LOL. She complained that Bob's behavior is very inappropriate and unsafe. Then OP's next update comes the next day and he says, wow, I didn't expect this to blow up. I'm still getting so many messages and comments. By the way, I used AI this time to correct my grammatical errors. For the listeners, I just want to say I had to reread so many parts of his story because my brain was having like a brain fart every time I read it. There were so many typos and I felt like I was stupid for a moment there. Anyway, back to his post. I'm not a native English speaker, and now I understand that it is not appropriate to use the word girl when referring to a 25-year-old woman. I didn't realize this before. Thanks for the heads up, Reddit. I showed this post to two of my colleagues and they encouraged me, and I also felt it was necessary to clarify a few things to be fair and to respond to some of your questions and comments. She actually complained about a lot of things that I didn't mention earlier, mostly because I didn't think they were very interesting, and honestly, a few of them even benefited us. 1. Okay, so apparently, wearing perfume at the workplace is not allowed. Got it. I guess Jane has just been lucky that no one's ever complained before. 2. Her comment about the Muslim guy's prayer mat was more about the way it was positioned in the storage room. Everything else is neatly arranged in wooden cupboards, but in one corner, there's a small table with the prayer mat and some religious items. She felt it looked out of place and thought personal items shouldn't be in public/shared areas. That said, the prayer mat has been there since I started, and no one in the office has raised an issue about it for the past 3 years. 3. About the quote skinny or quote eats like a pig comment, I'm totally fine with it. It's just a part of our internal banter, and I'm the only person who gets body shamed, if you want to call it that way. And I do allow people to do so. We don't comment about other people's bodies or eating habits, and no one is being body shamed. 4. There was no HR policy that says we can't eat at our desk, and nobody has complained about it until now. Everyone does this even in their own teams like IT. The new hires issue doesn't seem to be about allergies or food smells. Her main complaint was that she's trying to lose weight and doesn't like watching people eat. She never brought up concerns about computer damage or bugs until she took it to HR. 5. She's currently on a 6-month probation period. This is not her first job, but her second job. Apparently, she worked at that company for 2 years. The first job was in a different city, and she praises that company a lot. 6. I didn't mention this earlier because it kind of worked out in my favor, but one of my colleagues asked me to include it. On her second day, she asked our manager to move a cabinet closer to her desk. That cabinet used to be on the other side of the room, and I had to walk over there every time I needed to use it. So now it's more convenient for me, but of course, the people who used to sit near it, including the colleagues who asked me to mention it, are pretty annoyed, since they use it just as much as she does. She never mentioned about mobility issues or anything like that. She just wants the cabinets to be close to her. Funnily, our manager complies and gets the cabinets moved. 7. She complained about how the IT guy who sits behind her has got a really loud ringtone. I personally too find it a bit annoying, but he doesn't often receive phone calls, so it wasn't too bothersome for us. 8. She complained about how one of our colleagues was putting on headphones when working, and she disliked it when she had to tap on his shoulder when she needs to talk to him. She literally told him, "Do you mind not putting headphones while we work? Because I don't want to keep tapping your shoulders every time I need to talk to you, and it's disrespectful towards others," or something along the line. We usually just send a message on MS Teams when we want to talk to him and he's on headphones. He suggested she do the same, but she said she doesn't want to. 9. She complained about one Filipino woman who brought a smelly lunch to work. Yes, I kind of agree with this complaint. To be fair, the Filipino woman actually didn't do it very often, and she usually has a late lunch around 2 p.m. after people have finished their lunch. Few of my colleagues and I dislike it, but we thought nobody is perfect, and since she doesn't bring that food often, we just put up with it. 10. Also, my colleague told me he heard how she criticized a few of our Asian colleagues for eating rice with spoon instead of a fork. Why does this bother her? 11. She complained about how our kitchen bin doesn't have a lid. It doesn't bother us, but we can see her point. 12. She complained how we should have a coffee machine. Okay, this one would be great. 13. She allegedly reported a female colleague for wearing stilettos to the office, calling it inappropriate work attire. She also apparently reported the kitchen lady for wearing a Pikachu apron, saying it was unprofessional. Lol. 14. Bob has Down syndrome or some sort of intellectual disability. I don't think he was malicious or intentionally being appropriate. He probably doesn't have the capacity to think that it is not okay to touch other people. He didn't touch our new hire though. She just witnessed him touching another woman and immediately flagged him as a potential sexual harasser. To be fair, it doesn't have to happen to her for her to make a report about it. One of my colleagues genuinely thinks she might be having some mental health issues. Clearly, people commenting here are from different parts of the world and come from various cultural backgrounds. It's interesting to see how some things are totally normal in one place, but not okay in another. For instance, we have been eating at our desk for years, but apparently, according to some of you, that's a no-no in some workplaces. Well, sadly, it's not okay for us anymore either. Now, genuine question here. Excluding the perfume thing, would you have complained this much within 3 weeks of your initial employment? I personally think we should just put up with some of the little things sometimes. Life is not perfect, let alone an office. Thanks again for all your input, and yeah, definitely going to HR on Monday. OP's final update came 9 days later, and he says, "Sorry I haven't been able to update the post earlier due to personal reasons. As per most of the suggestions here, I decided to report her to HR with my colleagues in our team. So, on Monday morning, had a discussion regarding this new hire's behavior, and we decided to talk to our line manager first before going to HR. However, my manager couldn't come to work that day for legit reasons. The new hire also didn't come to work. She called in sick. We then changed our plan and decided to go to HR straight away. One of the IT guys joined us too, as the new hire had, quote, harassed him with a lot of unnecessary IT requests, demanded him to make a lot of changes to our IT system, so we offered him to join us to report her to HR. He suggested that rather than complaining about how she's annoyed everyone with her complaints, we should pretend to be concerned about her struggle to adjust to our environment and get HR to talk to her because we wanted her to have a good experience working with us."
Did you see what I did there?
It's a scam.
So, a few of us then had a meeting with HR, and guess what? HR people were also annoyed by her, LOL. They didn't say it directly, but subtly mentioned that she had been lodging a lot of unnecessary complaints. We also suggested that she might need to see a psychologist as she might be having some sort of internal personal crisis, aka crazy, that led her to make all of these complaints. The IT guy asked if she showed any signs of these behavior when HR interviewed her, and they said she asked a few detailed questions about the work culture here and also complained about some stuff like parking, etc. But they didn't really think much of it at the time. She had glowing reviews from her references, probably because they wanted to get rid of her. Lol. The HR team said that they would discuss this matter, and the HR manager will have a one-to-one meeting with her the next time she shows up. However, that never happened because she sent her resignation letter the following day, along with a very long list of complaints and things she wanted us to change. The most ridiculous thing is she actually sent the same email to the big boss, complaining that our workplace is unsafe, unhygienic, not inclusive, misogynistic, backwards, and radiating bad vibes. The HR lady who told us this found it strange that she didn't use the word toxic. One thing the HR found amusing was that she mentioned how our workplace should provide a lot of free stuff such as bottled beverages, fruits, snacks, espresso machine, dining vouchers, feminine hygiene products, petrol voucher, etc. In conclusion, good riddance. You know what? I was reading some of her complaints, and on one hand, some comments were reasonable or fair. On the other hand, some were just so out of pocket that I could not imagine people being so entitled. I think social anxiety is afraid of her. Because literally, when I have a complaint about something, like for instance, I don't like how my nails turn out, I don't even say it. I just pretend to love it, and I will be crying internally because it looks horrible, but I don't have the courage to say I don't like what you've done. If you had someone like her working in your workplace, how would you have handled her? Do let me know. And in the meantime, I'm going to take a sip from my tea, and then we'll move to the next story. For this next story, we are going over to the Am I the A-hole subreddit with a post by DueConstruction7435, and they ask, would I be the a-hole if I tell HR about my past with a new coworker? I, 34 male, am a lead developer on a team of mid-size SaaS company that has around 100 or so employees. Basically, we are large enough that there are employees we can see, recognize, but not necessarily know their names. Recently, we had a new hire, Krista, 33 female, who joined the PM part of the project I am working on. I have a history with Krista from college. In college, I was a lot more in my own shell. I didn't really treat myself well. I was very much the introverted nerd, down to bad posture and poor fashion sense. Krista, she did have quite a few friends in college, but at least in my view, she wasn't super popular, but she was well liked and conventionally attractive. We shared a few classes together, and one day asked me for some help on an assignment. I helped her on it, and we talked, and from the sounds of things, she seemed genuinely friendly to me. I helped her in a few more assignments, and finally she asked me if I wanted to meet her after class at a coffee shop and talk. I said sure, and when I got there, Krista was nowhere in sight. I waited about 20 minutes before I called her. She answered and started laughing, and I heard several other voices laughing. Krista saying something like, "Why would I want to date a fat loser like you?" I looked out the front window of the shop and saw one of Krista's friends holding up her camera phone, and it looked like she was recording. The next few weeks, there were jokes about me, flyers with my face from the coffee shop video plastered up with "creep" in bold letters at the top. I kept my head down, and within a month, the next big thing popped up on campus, and I was forgotten. It didn't stop Krista and her friends from going, "Ew, creep," when they saw me, but I guess for the rest of the campus, it got old. So I never got accused of anything, or even really ostracized by the rest of the student body. After college, I did learn about self-care a bit better. Plus, I usually am with other programmers, so I don't really stand out as a social outcast. When Krista was introduced to our team, I don't think she recognized me, and it's only been a week, but I want to know if bringing up the college incident is even worth it for HR. Most of my rational brain really wants to just let it go, treat Krista as a new person, and get on with me. But I have a small fear that she might tell a skewed version of the college events and sour the team I'm on against me, so I should at least disclose it to HR, so in case she does start telling tales, I have recourse. Would I be the a-hole if I told HR about my past with Krista? I don't think you could ever be considered an a-hole for protecting yourself. The fact is, you don't know how the new Krista will behave. You're only working off of how Krista has behaved in the past, and what she has done in the past is so cruel and humiliating that you cannot trust that she won't do it again. But you never know. It's been over a decade since college. Krista may have genuinely changed from who she was, but again, there's no guarantee for OP to just assume that that has happened. I do think it might be helpful to have a manager know what's going on, that you have a bit of history with Krista, where you were the subject of some bullying in the past. You hold no grudge against it. You don't want her to get fired, but you just want someone to be aware of it, just in case anything happens. And I think that might be enough protection for OP for now. I don't think it would be wise to say nothing. Let them know that this is confidential. You have no issues with her. You don't want to raise any complaints about her behavior, just so someone knows what's happened in the past. In the comments, Two Bionic Knees says, "Bruh, she made false allegations around campus about you being a creep because she asked you on a date and stood you up as a prank. She's a scumbag. What if she goes to HR and tells them that you were a creep in college? You came on to her and she tries to go after your job by getting you fired. Go to HR, report it, get ahead on it. If she says something, a response will always be seen as defensive and potentially lying, while if they have it on record that she has a history of bullying and labeling people creeps, when she tries again, they will have serious trouble believing her and keeping an eye on it and make someone else her direct supervisor, etc. so you will be in less situations that she could lie about. Say you don't want to be involved in any decisions about wages, firing, hiring, promotions, or being her direct supervisor. Bad Wolf 7426 says, I think you should practice what you plan on saying to HR until you almost sound bored, relaying the facts as dispassionately as possible. You could say, I recently met a new hire and I know her from college. She started and spread several rumors about me, then harassed me for X number of years, enlisting the help of a few of her friends. I wanted to request that we not be partnered on any projects going forward. Not that I harbor any resentment, but I want to protect my good name. Someone more eloquent and better versed in business-esque language could probably put it together better. But that's the gist of it. Good luck and update us, please. Ambien Walrus 1 says, if you take this to HR, proceed carefully and with caution. The world of HR, I've lived in it, is strange and people are scared of litigation. Your instinct to let it go is best. Hold your head high, excel at work, and treat Krista with professionalism. Her horrendous treatment of you years prior is not grounds for getting her fired or even moved off the project. She sounds despicably cruel, but until she does something at work or violates a work policy, there is not much HR can do. If she starts being awful to you, document it and talk to her supervisor. If she breaks company policy or the law, such as harassing you, disparaging you, etc., that's when you go to HR and file a complaint. Hopefully her tenure will be short-lived, but don't let her presence impact you one iota. She's not worth it, and you are. Now, on this last comment, people who have worked in HR are agreeing with this person's advice. Other people who haven't worked in HR are disagreeing with their advice. Do you guys think HR is the way to go, or do you think OP should hold off and see what happens before he goes to HR? OP comes in with an update 2 days later, and they say, yesterday some things happened, some bad, mostly good. There were mixed responses, most telling me to tell, but one HR professional said I shouldn't. Due to the mixed messaging, I did consult a local employment lawyer. The lawyer told me that I should make HR aware of the past I have with Krista, but make it clear that there was never anything disciplinary acted upon me in college. He asked if my job had a copy of my transcript, and I verified that they did. The lawyer asked if there was any third parties that would verify the harassment and see if I could get their names and contact details if needed. I knew 2 people back in college that I still had on my LinkedIn and was certain they would tell the truth, so we were good there. The lawyer told me to just request a meeting with HR and my supervisor and say that there was a past with Krista, there was never any charges or disciplinary action, and I have 2 witnesses if they ever need verification. So that was what I did. Friday morning, I came into the office and sent HR and my supervisor an email requesting a formal meeting at 10 a.m. My supervisor came to my desk and asked if everything was okay and wanted to make sure I was happy. I told him everything was fine, I wasn't leaving, and it wasn't anything to do with him or the team. He seemed relieved, and by 10 a.m., we rolled into the conference room with the HR officer. I thanked them both for taking time out of their day to meet with me. And then, I did as my lawyer instructed. I said that the new project manager, Krista, was someone I went to college with and that she participated in harassment of me in college. I detailed how I never had any charges or disciplinary action, and I had 2 independent witnesses that saw the harassment and gave their contact information. My supervisor seemed shocked, and the HR officer went through the information I gave her for a minute, and then the 2 of them talked for a minute. Finally, Krista was called in. When Krista walked into the conference room and saw me, HR, and the team supervisor, she seemed shocked. HR started with something like, "We have been told you 2 have a past." Krista sat down and looked pretty shocked throughout. She did admit to the bullying, but tried to reframe it as a misunderstanding repeatedly. She never outright said what the bullying was, but then she was told that since it was an incident in both our past that nobody once brought up again, that it should stay dead. HR made it clear that this is not to be a funny water cooler story to share. Krista and I both agreed to that, but Krista still looked shaken. Noon was coming up right when the meeting was wrapping up. My supervisor and HR again reiterated, neither of us is to breathe a word about the college incident. We're professionals and we're here to do a job. I went to the break room for lunch, and actually, I felt like my appetite has finally returned. The last few days were stress-starving me, to be honest. I sat at a table with the rest of the development team, and we started eating. Halfway through my sandwich, another coworker, Sandy, 30 female, came by and said, "So, I heard an interesting story yesterday about you and Krista," with a big grin on her face. She didn't get further because my supervisor was at our table, stood up, pointed at Sandy and across the room at Krista and said, "You two, conference room now." I wasn't privy to what happened in the conference room, but I did see the HR officer going to the room 2 minutes later, looking pretty pissed with a mustard stain on her shirt. I guess she got a call and was interrupted during lunch. Not sure what went on. The rest of my team asked what that was about. I said, I have no idea, and just kept eating. 5 minutes later, 2 more co-workers on the other part of the project were brought into the conference room. Lunch ended and we went back to work, but speculation was high. It wasn't until 3 p.m. that the conference room finally emptied. Krista looked like she was crying, and the others that were in the room with her seemed to treat her quite coldly. Not sure what this will mean, but it appears for now that Krista is still working here. But I appreciate the lengths HR and my supervisor are taking to ensure this won't blow up further. Then OP has another update that comes 4 days later, and he says, Monday wasn't a crap show, so that was good. My supervisor and the HR officer did bring everyone on the team into a big conference room for the HR officer to say that we are a professional company. And while we do like to have fun, there are company outings like golf, bowling, main events. We are to be strictly professional and not gossip about other co-workers' personal lives. Sandy and the 2 other co-workers who were brought into the conference room on Friday looked pretty ashamed during this. Krista was sitting at the other end of the conference room table, and there seemed to be a noticeable distance between her and the other employees. My supervisor said he wants to consider this matter closed and for us to get back to offering great solutions to our clients. Everyone filed out of the conference room and went back to work. Lunch on Monday was pretty tense, but Tuesday, management had a local Mexican place bring in a Taco Tuesday for us, and the mood improved considerably. I don't gossip, but I did hear murmurs that Krista is now on her final warning and put on a performance improvement plan all within her first 2 weeks. Not sure how true these rumors are, but with how isolated Krista now appears to be to the rest of the team, it is clear that everyone else is not willing to socialize with her beyond their work functions. I considered this matter closed myself, and if Krista worked hard and got her redemption arc, I'd have been fine with it. But then last night happened. I'm not sure where Krista got my address, but she was outside my house last night, and luckily my doorbell camera caught it, so I can pretty accurately transcribe it. She rang and asked if we could talk. I said through the digital doorbell there was nothing to talk about, and she better leave because this is now harassment. She pleaded for me to come outside and discuss it. I declined and emphasized that she's not welcome. She then said that she had a crush on me in college, that her friends found out she asked me to coffee and pressured her to turn it into a harassment campaign, and she was afraid of them disowning her for liking a guy like me. Guys, I wanted to laugh so effing hard. I was socially awkward back in college, but even I knew this was BS. Hell, I wasn't even interested in Krista for a date. I thought she wanted to be my friend. I told her I didn't care what she has to say. She has to leave. She told me I could just ask Sandy what she told her and it would clear things up. I declined and said that this matter in the office is closed. Krista finally made an exaggerated sigh and walked off. I took the video recording from the doorbell and sent it to the employment lawyer and will give it to my supervisor and HR today. I'll be shocked if she will last longer than this Friday now. And OP then gives an update the next day, and they say, Krista is fired. I didn't even have to send HR the doorbell camera video, but I did send it to the lawyer I was talking to. The lawyer is drafting a cease and desist and potentially a restraining order if needed. Krista somehow got my address from someone in IT. The IT new hire is suspended because of this data breach, and everyone got a memo about data security yesterday morning, including the usual about phishing scams. Krista's desk was empty when I came in yesterday morning, and since I'm taking the necessary legal steps, I'm considering this matter closed. There is a second, shorter update, but in the comments of that update, someone then asked, are you the same physically as you were in college? Did you have a glow up at all? Did you talk to Sandy about it? I think now that Krista is gone, she will tell you the truth about what she really said. And OP responds and says, I will answer. I lost weight. I do nightly walks. I'm not ripped or shredded or any of the 50 adjectives people use. I also dress a little better. Nothing like designer clothing, just newer slacks and button-up shirts that fit me. I wouldn't consider it a glow up, just learning self-care. No, I am not going to talk to Sandy about it either. I have no idea what sort of punishment was given to Krista, and the stuff like the final warning and PIP was all rumors. The IT person on suspension, that is true. And from the sounds of it, it could have been something as simple as him forgetting to lock his screen when he went to take a pee. Details aren't shared, and the only thing we are hearing is unsubstantiated rumors. Plus, I would think it's bad for me to ask HR, hey, can you tell me how you are punishing everyone that could have remotely crossed me? I just want my workplace to be normal again. And OP's last update, my throat is on fire, came the next month, and they said, little update, Krista did show up at my front door one more time. I called the cops. She was removed but not arrested since she didn't technically do anything yet. Lawyers served her with a cease and desist, and it has been communicated to me that she understands. Work is almost back to normal. No one wants to talk about Krista anymore. I consider this truly resolved now. If Krista had shown up at my front door, I would have called the police that first night because it's gone beyond workplace problem. It's now she knows where I live, she could follow me around. And to the people who were asking OP to go verify what was said with the other colleague, I just want to say, this is real life. People are actually living this experience. I would love to know the full story, but this is OP's daily life. I would not want him to go around making enemies at the workplace because it could easily go from he was a victim of bullying with Krista to now he's harassing the other employees to talk about Krista. If you were in OP's shoes, what would you guys do and how would you guys react to things? Do let me know what you guys think. But with that, we have come to the end of today's scroll down the rabbit hole. I do want to say thank you for watching to the end of the video. It means a lot to me and it also means a lot to the channel. If you've enjoyed the stories, please give it a like. And if you would like to see more content, you know what to do. Hit that subscribe and notification bell icon so you always have something interesting to watch every Monday. And finally, if you have your own questions, your confessions, or your events, I would love to hear from you guys. We have our own subreddit, which is r/AshleyReddit. Feel free to post on there, and you never know your story just by being the next video. Until next time, keep it nosy, keep it cozy. Ashley read it, and now so did you.